Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say. Nigeria's debt profile has undergone significant changes recently, particularly with regards to its International Monetary Fund, the loan. The country fully repaid its $3.4 billion loan from the IMF, which was obtained in 2020 under the Rapid Finance Instrument to cushion the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. This repayment marks a notable milestone in Nigeria's economic management, demonstrating the country's commitment to fiscal responsibility. It's a beautiful episode on your favorite primetime show, Ways. My name remains Osayo Mesale, and today we're discussing the IMF loan, and we are just checking up on all the updates on Nigeria's debt profile. Our guest is going to be Segun Sopitan. He will join me much later. Remember, Ways is all about you. You are the why in Ways, so be a part of the conversation. Every single day, you can add your voice to the discussion. You can also head onto our YouTube channel. It's at Official Upgrade TV. Hit that subscribe button, like, share, and invite your families and friends to join the show right now. And when I open the phone lines, I would really love to hear your thoughts on all of the topic, the conversation on our loans, right? As always, let me allow you to ponder on this, my very interesting quote for the day. It says, as of April 30th, 2025, Nigeria has fully repaid the financial support of about $3.4 billion it requested and received in April of 2020 from the International Monetary Fund under the Rapid Financing Instrument to help alleviate the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And this was from the IMF resident representative of Nigeria, Kristen Ebeke. Yes. So we're going to have all of these conversations. We'll delve into our loans and everything much later. But first, let me run off on a break. When I come back, I'll let you in on my news interest for the day. All right, thanks for staying tuned. So I'm going to start off with reps move to make voting compulsory for Nigerians. Oh, why am I laughing? No. Oh, don't laugh. So this is actually supposed to be a serious thing, guys, right? Performing your civic responsibility is supposed to be a big deal. You're supposed to take it seriously, right? So a bill to amend the Electoral Act 2022 to make voting compulsory to Nigerians of voting age has passed second reading in the House of Representatives. The proposed legislation was sponsored by the Speaker Tajuddin Abbas and Daniel Ago.
Leading the debate during plenary on Thursday, Agos said the bill aims to encourage citizens' participation in the electoral process, noting that voter apathy during elections would be addressed if the bill scales legislative scrutiny. Although the bill passed second reading, a member of the People's Democratic Party of Akwa Ibom, Mark Esset, said enacting a law to make voting compulsory is not enough to sensitize the electoral system. Let us not put something on nothing. If citizens have lost confidence in the electoral system, there is a lot of work to be done. Many Nigerians do not vote during elections because they believe their vote will not count. If we must make a law to make voting compulsory, we must also make another law to make their votes count. Abio. So he just helped me to sum it up. Like, it does not make sense. I mean, I spoke about electoral processes last week. Can we just refine our electoral processes? Let us adopt technology. Let us infuse, what's it called, electronic transmission of results. See if we will not vote. See if we will not vote. So I'm going to do more on this voting matter. I have video to go and shoot on it on my Instagram. So continue. You go and check out my thoughts there. So I'll move on to my next story, right? Lagos sets 6 p.m. closing time for construction sites. Now, according to this report, right, the Lagos state government has restricted working hours on building sites statewide to the hours of 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday to Saturday. This was disclosed by the Commissioner of Fiscal Planning and Urban Development, Oluyinka Olumide, in Alausa. He said that the restriction order must be strictly adhered to by all those involved in building constructions in the state, as relevant government agencies would enforce compliance. However, concession to work outside these hours could be granted subject to formal application that would be treated on its merit. According to Olumide, the move is to restrict working hours on building site was expedient to protect the environment, combat building collapse, and promote social well-being and wellness. He urged residents to report any site found to be violating the order. Of course, you know, there have been a lot of building collapse. I just want to quickly touch on this story. I know that a lot of estates actually address this situation. A lot of estates, they address the situation. For instance, in my estate, Sundays, no laborer comes into the estate. Then I think when it's that 6 p.m., you know, everybody's asked to leave because they sign in and they must sign out. And, you know, if they are found violating the laws, then the homeowner would be penalized for it. So I think to some extent, all these estates have that covered. I believe maybe this law would be for probably commercial constructions and all of those happening. But again, we don't have daylight at 6 p.m. Right? We don't have daylight at 6 p.m. Except yesterday there was so much sun at 6 p.m. But we really don't have daylight at 6 p.m. And I think it would be only reasonable for your safety as a construction worker to actually close at 6 p.m., you know, so where there's still daylight. Because, I mean, construction sites, too many things. And, you know, the way we don't pay attention to ensuring health and safety measures are in place. So you just see everything lying around. So when you go into a construction site, you likely get injured. So, and when it's now dark, it's worse. So I think that's, it's a good move by Lagos State government. I'll move on to my final story for today. Yes, I saved it for last. UTME errors. Ezekwesili slams JAM Education Ministry for incompetence. So Ezekwesili had posted on her X. She says, wondered why JAM did not address the complaints earlier with humility and prompt investigation. Why could the authorities not have could not have immediately acted with humility and done an unbiased, swift system check once unusual trends emerge, instead of immediately impugning citizens with expressed concern? The Ministry of Education and JAM were embarrassingly anecdotal, right, in their, you know, say, some people like grammar, pejorative, non-evidence-based explanation of their significantly unusual results of candidates in the 5 Southeast states predominantly. Technical matters must also be examined with professionalism And that has sadly disappeared in toxic atmosphere created by incompetent and dishonest politicians and intellectuals who should know better. Yeah. The lady slammed them. So now, a lot of people are actually calling that it's not only the JAMB registrar that needs to resign, right? What's his name? The Minister for Education should also resign. She now goes on to say that if I were president and my Minister of Education concerned herself with revenue and remittance of exam body, which is JAMB, rather than fixing the integrity and competence testing of the exam system, process and infrastructure, I will immediately reassign her to airport toll gates. This woman. Oh my God. Now, since you say your work as the Minister of Education is to be calculating how much they collected, it's just to carry you to where they collect revenue collection, toll gates, straight up. Or you go and join the people on Lekki Ekpe Expressway that are always collecting taxes. But I like the fact that people are talking. I remember when I did that video, when I was saying that, parents should come out to call out JAMB. It seemed like a daunting task. It seemed like JAMB was not going to listen. Because I said it in that video. I ended that video to say the exam has to be reconducted. So I am happy that they are reconducting the exams for the people that had all those glitches. But beyond that, let us be intentional about solving the problem from the root cause. And let us also consider, exams like IELTS. How have they done it over the years? Do you know how many people that have jackpot that have written IELTS? Because it's almost like a compulsory exam for you to be able to leave this country, especially if you're going to a foreign land, right? So is it possible that we can have JAMB all year round? You go online, register, pick a date, pick a center, and go and write it. So that way you have fewer centers that are more competent and that are well, managed. Because a lot of JAMB issues is also hinged on misappropriation, mismanagement. A lot of this equipment are not functional because most of the softwares are outdated. That's why systems will shut down. So you see, these things are quite delicate. And for us to solve this problem, then we must be very, very intentional. We must be very intentional. And the intentionality will start with, first of all, honesty to admit your error. Then secondly, how do we check? How do we probe it? The way I carry this JAMB matter from my head, people will think that, I really don't need them for anything. In fairness, my children are way, 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 way above, the 300 mark. So I really don't need it for anything. But whenever I speak out, I fight for the people that do not have a voice. I fight for those people that, they will never have an opportunity to be heard. And so we must stop this incompetency and celebrating mediocrity in this country. All of those things must stop. I'll go on a break. When we come back, let's discuss our loans. Stay with me.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we'll connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
All right, the repayment of the IMF loan is expected to improve Nigeria's image in global financial circles and may help its case in future multilateral and bilateral negotiations. However, the country's debt sustainability remains a concern, with analysts cautioning that Nigeria needs to expand non-oil revenue, rein in recurrent expenditure, and deepen structural reform to reduce dependency on borrowing. I mean, like literally, that is all we have been screaming, right? So joining me to shed light on this conversation around the IMF loan and, you know, the update on Nigeria's debt profile is Segun Sopitan. Thank you so much. And he's joined me via Zoom live. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I think you are muted. Are you there? Okay. So let me just say that Nigeria fully repaid its 3.4 billion loan from the IMF on the 30th of April 2025, right? I mean, they've been making a lot of noise about it. And this loan was obtained in 2020 under the rapid financing instrument to cushion the economic impact of COVID-19. So total debt stands currently at 142.3 trillion. That's our total debt, right? So it means that if we were going to put it in person, right, it means approximately we are owing about 624,527 naira, you know, as of September 2024. And there's a forecast that suggests that it could reach 187 trillion at the end of 2025. If we look at our domestic debt, right, it's about 74.38 trillion as of December 2024, and is dominated by the federal government bonds, which is about 55.44 trillion, and Nigeria Treasury bills, which is about 12.35 trillion. There's a lot of figures here. $44.9 billion as of December 2024, with top creditors including Eurobond holders, World Bank, China, Exim Bank of China. These are all external debts that we owe. So there is allocations for each of them. So Eurobond has about $17 billion. World Bank has about $16.56 billion. Exim Bank of China has about $5.6 billion. And these are data from December 2024. Based on what has happened over the past few months, it means that some of this data also would have been updated. So despite repaying this IMF loan, Nigeria will still continue to make annual payments of about 30 million in special drawing rights charges until 2029. So the repayment is expected to improve Nigeria's image in global financial circles, no doubt. But it must also understand that it may help its case in future. So when people want to go to the negotiation table, as a small business, for instance, if I have a loan or a debt profile, you know, it reduces whatever anybody would want to negotiate with me. But if my debt profile is clear, okay, we can have a conversation. It means that, you know, you have, you know, good credit, right? So that's what will happen. So if we really want to solve some of the problems, I would say that Nigeria would really need to intentionally focus on non-oil revenue, which is what, in fairness, they have been doing. But I want to know how far we've gone. I don't know if we have our guest now. Okay. Segun Sopitan.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
apologies. Madam. I think network or something. I don't know whether it was your mic.
Yeah, technical glitches.
Technical glitches. Please don't be jammed. We don't want to hear technical glitches anymore.
Unfortunately.
If not, we will so attack you that you will cry on national television.
I beg, bro. It's not me, please. one bearded man crying on national TV is enough.
Thank you for joining me this evening. So, see, the question has been in my head. Let me ask that question. This is a layman question. Please, where did they get the money to pay this loan? Let me even start there. Because, it's true, because, there have been a lot of approvals in the past, would I say how many months now? 5 months. We've been hearing, approve. I hope they did not collect one credit to go and use to settle another gbese. So, just let me know what your general thoughts about when you heard the news that Nigeria has cleared off the IMF loan and, so it's looking good for us in our books and all of that. What came to your head? What came to my mind is, where did they get the money from? But I want to know what came to your head before you answer my question.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's exactly what I thought about. I was just like, really? I mean, the same government that provided for 16 trillion naira as debt service obligations in the 2025 budget, and that has been getting approval left, right, and center to borrow different branches of loans from almost everywhere possible. How did we manage to pull off this little miracle? And in other parts of the world where accountability to the public is a major thing, that would have actually been a part of the information that came, but all we heard was that $3.4 billion has been magically and miraculously paid off. My guess would be that, just like you said, there's some sort of drawdown that has happened from somewhere, and somebody has thought, look, let's pay this off. It will be good for the optics. It will be good for, this is midterm. Let's not forget that it's 2 years into the administration. We're looking for good news, so let's pay this off, and we can always go back because we have the special drawing rights, and also paying off gives us very good standing, good credit standing or rating with the IMF. So we can go back and get some more money later, but let's just pay this off first. I think there's some serious financial engineering that's happened. It can't be from revenue because clearly, in spite of the subsidy removal, in spite of the floating of the exchange rate, the valuation of the naira that has resulted in more revenues in naira for government at all tiers. The feeling is that the revenues are nowhere near enough to do the things that we need to do. So how are we able to pay off not just the debt service, the interest obligations, but to actually pay off the loan? So on the one hand, it's good news, but that question, unfortunately, I can't answer it because the information is not in the public domain. So it's a question we should be asking of the government. They owe us an explanation. It's our money, after all. So they owe us that explanation.
Because that was the only thing that was just going around in my head, right? But let us backtrack a bit. Was there a real need for that $3.4 billion in the first place?
Absolutely. I think that when we cast our minds back to when this money when this loan was taken, in fact, the loan was taken as a part of a global, if you like a global program by the lending institutions in the wake of COVID. COVID did a lot of havoc to the entire global economy. Everything about human life and human existence, we saw unprecedented things. We saw the world coming to a complete halt, literally. No planes flying, no ships moving, no cars driving for several months. It's never happened before in the history of humanity. So a lot of things happened at that time, and one of the fallouts of all of that was that economies collapsed. Nigeria being an economy that is so heavily dependent on oil, if you remember at that time, oil prices actually went negative. They went below zero. For the first time again in the history of humanity, we had oil prices being negative. In other words, futures. Nobody was taking futures anymore, because nobody knew what was going to happen. So at that time, revenues collapsed, and the only way to fund government activities, including payment of salaries, these monies were not really necessarily for projects. It was just to run things and then to get some sort of support into the hands and pockets of people around the world that needed help at that time. Sadly, we know what happened on our own side of the Atlantic. I mean, where palliatives got hoarded and kept in warehouses and all of
Palliatives
that.
were used for birthday gifts.
Exactly. Where you saw palliatives and you saw people's pictures and on the palliatives that are meant for the people. But the money was given at that time basically to provide support for countries that needed it to recover from the impact of COVID. So yes, the money, it was a necessary loan. I don't think we had much of a choice, given what had happened to our revenues. So
Segun, can you help me walk me through? Yeah, apologies for cutting you.
No,
walk
okay.
me through what is going on with our current debt, profile. What is it? Where are we?
It's a scary picture, honestly. It's a scary picture because so the latest information that has come out of the debt management office, and the information comes sadly a bit late. Usually you have almost a 6 month time lag between what has happened and when we get to know what has happened. But the information from the debt management office recently released shows that our total debt level as a country has now hit 144 trillion naira and 90. If you convert that to dollars at the current prevailing exchange rate, it's 94 billion US dollars, 94 billion US dollars. Put that in context, to contextualize that so that one can, compare it to something. Our budget for 2025 is somewhere around 35 billion US dollars. So we currently owe about almost 3 times the amount that we budget to spend every year. 3 times. I mean, that is a crisis. If you are owing 3 times what you spend, then you know that you are in serious trouble. So, of course, that debt is broken down into the foreign components and the local debt component, but either way, it's debt.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And they are saying that there is a forecast that this debt is going to rise to 187 or 188, trillion by the end of this year.
By the end of the year.
Jesus.
Absolutely.
So what are the implications of this?
I mean, look, we're in a crisis. Our government and our public officials, especially the political actors, we have to think more. We're not thinking enough. There just simply isn't enough intellectual rigor to be very deliberate about looking for things that are usual, about doing things in a way that is different from how it's normally done. It's not happening. So what is happening now is that everything that we do, anything that our government does, as far as it's project related, and in some instances, even for the current expenditure, they borrow the money. We have to stop it, It's so the government tells itself, our debt to GDP ratio is still healthy, it's still somewhere trending. By the way, we're now hitting 50-something%. We were just a couple of years ago, we were 35% debt to GDP ratio. And before then, we were actually about 10% just like 8 years ago. Debt to GDP. Now we're at 55%. And our government tells us that that's very healthy. If you compare yourself to countries like Japan, whose debt to GDP ratio is about 150%, the United States about 120%. They forget that those countries, their revenue to GDP, their revenue to GDP ratio is they're very healthy. They are 70%, 60%, 80%. Nigeria's revenue to GDP is about, last time I checked, about 10%. It was actually as low as 5%, 5.5% just 3 years ago. So we can't say that our debt to GDP ratio is healthy compared to other parts of the world when we're not looking at the revenues we're generating that is supposed to be used to service the debt. So this fixation, this almost like we're addicted to borrowing as a country, has to stop. If we don't stop it, removing subsidy, we're in trouble.
Is it only just an addiction to borrowing or an addiction to, what's it called, mismanagement? Do you understand? Because as it stands, If you are running a business, Segun, please help me understand. Do you go and, say, okay, so you have borrowed money. At least use it to put a structure in place that can bring you more money. Do you understand? So that you are able to pay back what you have borrowed and still have enough to be able to pay your salaries. But we keep on seeing a lot of mismanagement, a lot of unrealistic projects, it makes no sense that, when I hear certain kinds of projects that our political leaders, they are doing, I'm asking, did they sit down to think, is this important? Is this project going to bring money to me? I am going through a lot of rigor as a business. Just for somebody to give me 1 kobo. The person will ask me, so how do I get my 1 kobo back? So we see all of this in small businesses. I was opportune to be in a room yesterday where they were doling out debt financing for SMEs. Some people got as high as 2 billion, 1.5 billion, 600. But it is because the people that are giving them that money, they've done their due diligence. They've seen their turnover. They've seen you understand? And they know that in this so time, this business will be able to fund. They just need to scale up so that they can make their revenue quickly and move, and give them back and pay them back. But what we are doing in Nigeria, with all the intellectual people around, it doesn't make any sense. You are still hiring people. The other day, Bauchi State Governor hired 60 special assistants, special advisors, or whatever. Who does that? You're already borrowing money to even sustain your recurrent expenditure, and you're not hiring more people. So make it make sense to me. Is it that Nigerians we are not being intentional about questioning these people? Because how they continue to do this and get away with it, continue to plunge us further into debt, I don't understand it.
Yeah, and that is the crux of the matter. The fact that, these things make no sense, but nothing happens and nothing changes. Nothing is likely to change because it's just the way we are. People are kind of used to the way things are. We no longer complain. The questions that you raise are common sense now. Common sense. It only makes sense. Everybody says it. Never borrow money for consumption. Never borrow money for consumption. Borrow money to put it in activities or assets that will bring returns that will be sufficient to pay back the loan. If you are borrowing money and what you are using the money on will not pay back the loan, then you are in trouble unless you have other sources of income. And in our case, we know that our income is nowhere near enough. So, and that raises another question. You talked about what the money is. Is it an accountability issue? What are they doing with the money? And all of that. There's that. But there's also the question around what happens to the subsidy savings. And I think we need to be putting a spotlight on that question, that conversation, because Nigerians literally have suffered. We've seen poverty levels rise. Even the same World Bank has actually warned that we are going to see unprecedented high levels of poverty, as a result of this subsidy removal and the floating of the exchange rate or floating of the Naira policy, right? So Nigerians have suffered, and one would have thought that the gains of that suffering, at least there will be some sort of accountability from government to explain to Nigerians how much has been saved and what has been done with the money. So for example, if somebody comes back and says, well, we've been able to pay back this $3.4 billion, back to the IMF as a result of the savings.
And we raised the money from the subsidy, called savings. That would have made sense.
That would have made some sense.
Then you will not tell us how much was the subsidy savings that has been gathered for the period that subsidy has been removed.
Exactly.
But there's no transparency.
So as we speak now, it's been 2 years. On May 29, in another week and a half or so, it should have been 2 years since the president, very bravely announced that subsidy was gone, something that was not even in his speech, So now, 2 years later, the president owes us an explanation. And I'm saying this now, your platform is, very well viewed. And I want to hope that somebody close to him, somebody close to his speechwriters and his advisors will be watching this or will get to see this and understand that as a part, even as a part of the political process, as a part of earning the public trust so you can get rewarded with a second term, you have to make sure you're accountable to the people. So in a mid-year speech, he's going to give a speech of some sort of democracy 2 years into his term. I think one of the things that has to happen, just symbolically, because it was during a similar speech on his inauguration day, that he announced that subsidy was gone. I think the least that he owes Nigerians is to explain, give account of what's happened to that saving. How much have we saved in totality in that time? How much of that saving went to the federal government? How much of that saving went to the state government? And what has been done with those monies, by each of those tiers of government? The president owes us an explanation so that we know that the suffering not been in vain. So if some of that money, for example, has been thrown into the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, tell us how much it is, and whatever else that you've done with the money, we need to know. So instead of that, instead of us seeing these savings, and getting accountability for it, we see a ballooning of public debt. We see a ballooning where these monies that are being borrowed, is you and I that are going to pay it back. Somehow we're going to get
Segun Sopitan.
Yes, we'll be taxed.
I will leave you in Nigeria to pay it. I will see you later. Let's
Please
go on the break.
You're not going anywhere.
I dey go. Yeah? Me pay gbese wa no chop. I'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
All right, thanks for staying tuned. I love that energy thing. We need light. Simple. Just give us light, we'll be fine. Okay, so if you just tuned in, we're discussing the IMF loan, and we are just updating ourselves on Nigeria's debt profile, and I have with me Segun Sopitan. Now remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. Our phone lines are also now open. 070250077749 or 070142424220. Please, join into the conversation. Are you going to be part of the people paying the loan? Join in the conversation. You can also send us and add me on WhatsApp, right? We can add you via video as well to join the conversation. Let's hear what you have to say, okay? So, before we went on a break, Segun, are you still there?
I'm here.
They say, well, no chop. I will not help you to pay. I know.
Well pay together.
No, let the people that, you see, it's because Nigerians, we need to wake up. All these people that are eating this money, we have to go and hold them by their shokoto. Pay this money. You have to pay it. But you see, because I don't want us to dwell so much on the issues, right? You've raised some very good points as to the necessity of us divesting our economy, the diversification of our economy. They say it all the time. But I just feel like a lot of these things are talk shop, right? My friends and I, we are sitting down, we are calculating, and the naira is not adding up. So only us by ourselves, we are saying, okay, how do we earn in FX, right? What are the things we need to start to do intentionally so that we can start to earn in FX, so that it cushions the effect of the inflation and all of these things that is disturbing us as individuals? Now, the government knows this because you see them talk about it all the time. How they want to diversify the economy, how they want to ensure that, they are expanding, beyond the oil revenue. But really, is it a difficult thing for us to have an economy that, that gives us income from multiple sources that we have the potential to get from?
It's easy, but it's not. It's also hard. And the reason that I say that it's easy because the potential is literally limitless. The kind of things that we can get, alternative revenue sources away from oil. It's literally limitless. Nigeria is blessed. I can just keep going. I can go on and on. Is it the creatives? Is it, ICT with our innovativeness and our creativity and all of that? Is it tourism? Before you start looking at solid minerals, we can go on and on, agriculture, all of these things. But the funny thing, before we can talk about exploiting any of these things, we need electricity. So, you were talking about it jokingly, but that it's actually a critical conversation that we need to be having in this country at this moment. There's nothing you can do without electricity. So the president, last week announced the Nigeria First policy. Brilliant. I love it. I love it. We've been advocating for this. We think that government should lead by example, patronize Nigerian things first, and then, citizens will follow. Nigerians are easy people to lead, right? So it's a beautiful policy to state, but guess what? It's not going to work because how can you have Nigeria First when you are generating 4,500, 4,800? Let's even say it's 6,003 megawatts as announced by the Minister of Power recently. 6,003 megawatts for a country with 230 million people with 928,000 square kilometers of land area. Our energy need as we speak today is nothing less than about 200,000 megawatts of electricity. That's what we need to generate for us to provide enough power to drive the kind of production, and unlock opportunity and potential of this country. But we are not moving in that direction at all. We've been on the same spot, literally, since we started this democracy in 1999. We've never gone beyond this 6,000. In fact, this 6,000 is a recent mark. And the truth is that in terms of what we're distributing, we're still hovering around 5,000. So it's a travesty. Until we fix that, we can't generate revenues from other sources because it's productivity. It's what you produce that you will export and that will bring you dollars, right? So if we don't have light to produce, what are you selling now to get the dollars? Outside of services, outside of the things that you and I can just do by ourselves, but when you talk about as an economy, as a nation, you need electricity to drive productivity, whether it's for export income, for dollar revenues, or even for local productivity and local production that will drive economic growth and put wealth in the pockets of people. So the electricity question is a question that the government has to attack. If the government says we're borrowing $30 trillion, for example, I don't care, and you say we're borrowing this money because in 2 years, we are going to have 30,000 megawatts of electricity. Now we're talking, because that 30,000 megawatts of electricity will unlock wealth, and government will generate enough taxes to pay the loans. So these things are actually not very difficult, but the will to do what needs to be done, the commitment, the energy, the focus that you need to pursue this type of thing in a project-based manner, where you have milestones and timelines, where you have KPIs that you've given to the different stakeholders, and you are putting them all together in the same room and saying we must deliver this by so and so time. It's missing. We don't have it in our political actors. They are too busy thinking about the next election, unfortunately. So it's very unfortunate. It's very easy to generate alternative sources of revenue away from oil, but it's also hard because of where we find ourselves on the governance and the leadership question.
The infrastructural deficit. Imagine what you just said. We need at least 200,000 and we're at 6,000. I don't remember the exact figure, but I saw recently where the Minister for Power was, telling us the financial implication, you understand, if we were to have steady power supply. I was trying to find that figure,
He
but
said
I
it's
can't.
$10 billion every year for the next 20 years.
For the next 20
10
years.
billion. Yes, $10 billion every
Yes,
year for the
because
next 20 years.
when I saw that, I thought that was very ridiculous, right?
It's ridiculous.
It is
It
ridiculous
is
because
ridiculous.
you see, in all of these things that we're trying to solve, let's go back to this debt thing. In all of this that we are trying to solve, people are not looking at it that we want to solve problem. People are looking at it that we want to make money. Because really, who is the one that is vetting and screening? Who are the auditors that are checking that if you say this road cost us 10 billion, you understand, it truly was worth 10 billion? Because another problem that we have when it comes to money management in our country, you have borrowed to go and do something. Instead of you to ensure that you maximize that money, I keep on asking, if Nigeria were your business, would you treat it the way you're treating it? Do you understand? Would you rob your business? You understand? Because how does it make sense that a project is supposed to cost 1 million naira and you have the full mind, the chest, to put $1 billion naira on that project? Something that would have cost $1 million naira. Because that's what we are seeing. So in all of these things, because when I saw that he said 10 billion for the next 20 years, I thought that was ridiculous.
I mean, you would have to ask an expert, and who would. I know that power generation is not cheap, depending on what your energy mix, what energy mix strategy you want to pursue. But whichever way, whether it's hydro, which is one of the cheapest, it's still not cheap. I think the international standard is about $1 million for every megawatt of electricity. About $1 million. So you just do the numbers, and you arrive at what is the fair cost. So. But like you say, because of the lack of transparency in how government business is done, it's difficult to relate with these numbers with any kind of credibility. You look at it and you will always just be skeptical. Is this true? Is this real? So what the minister needs to do is to just, instead of throwing those numbers around like that, it's to actually explain in very simple terms
the cost breakdown of that 10 billion.
Yes, the breakdown of everything.
Not be 10 billion naira, $10 billion. So he has to break it down.
It is a lot of money. And that is in only one sector. It's in only one sector. We still have infrastructure deficits in so many other places.
We have rails that needs to be,
The rail network is critical.
Very critical.
It's a shame. Do you know the kilometers of rail that we have in Nigeria? 600 kilometers of functional rail, if you are talking about the functional ones, and that's because we've got Lagos Ibadan, and a few in Lagos. Compare us to a country like Egypt, 7,000 kilometers of rail network. Don't go to China and the US. You are talking 140,000 kilometers of rail, out of which about 112,000 is electric rail lines in China. The United States has about 146,000 kilometers of rail network. Nigeria, 600. So there's that. There's the road network, there's the waterways. There's so many infrastructure issues that we need to deal with. It's not just electricity. It's just that electricity is the most critical one, But when the minister throws that kind of number around, then, so how much would we need to spend to build our rail networks and pave our roads? It's a bit fun.
It's a downer, honestly. So if you were to just look at where we are right now with all the issues around transparency, accountability, and all of that, what would you even think would be the best strategy that we can implement in Nigeria to optimize this our debt, management, what's it called, structure or whatever, and reduce this borrowing that we are borrowing every day?
Look, we've been saying it, and we keep saying it because I think there's something about saying things that eventually brings them to life. We've been talking about government leading by example, the president leading by example, as an example of things that if you keep saying, maybe it will eventually happen. And here we are. The government has now come up with the Nigeria First policy, even though I think the president didn't go far enough. If I were in his shoes and I really wanted to go down that road and I wanted to hit Nigerians at the core of their souls and convince them that I mean business, you know what I will do? I will declare the Nigeria First policy and I'll sell my Escalade. The Escalade will understand cost about $1 billion naira. So you can sell that Escalade and get Innocent or Nord to produce something far more luxurious, customized, and it should be for a fraction of that cost, maybe 200 million, maybe 300 million, because to be bulletproof, to have all of the latest technology and gadgetry and all of that, if the president had done that, sell that Escalade, second-hand value, what you will get from that Escalade, you will make two locally produced cars that will serve you and will be safe and will be of high quality, because that's still a lot of money we're talking about. And I would order all my government parastatals and all the legislators to sell all their foreign cars. I call it the asset swap program. Swap all of the foreign produced assets that government currently uses or has bought recently and buy Nigeria equivalent. Just imagine the kind of the impact that will have, both in terms of economic impact and impact in terms of optics, and what it will say to the people about the seriousness of government. So in similar manner, if you are talking about, the debt problem, the debt trap, what I would have expected the government, and we've been saying it, and we're going to keep saying it, we've got to think outside the box and bring and unlock private capital, leverage private capital, bring private investment into public infrastructure financing. It's possible. The problem with that is private capital pursues returns. So if you want to approach anybody that has any kind of fund, one private equity fund or some sort of debt fund somewhere in the world, if you're looking for $100 billion, they've got it, but they will do the numbers. They will run
and
very
they will put in the
models.
structure. They will put in the structure, which is what
Yes,
we run
to
away
ensure
from.
that their money comes back. To ensure their money comes back. So that's what our government officials will run away from, because the accountability and the transparency, that goes along with that. I'm afraid I don't think that our governments are capable or willing to subject themselves to that. But if we are willing, there's money. We don't have to borrow. Private money will come and do all our roads. And let Nigerians pay the toll fees. Let's pay. Nothing is free in Freetown. So give us good roads and we'll pay for it. Give us rail lines and we'll pay for it. If it's going to take 15 years for the private investor to recoup their investment in having a train from Lagos to Port Harcourt, or a train from Abuja to Port Harcourt or to Kano, whatever, then so be it. Do it. But unfortunately, we keep talking about borrowing. The only language that our government understands is to borrow money to fund their public infrastructure. We don't have to do that. The government can lead, can provide guarantees, can provide some sort of counterpart funding, for get private capital to do all of the work for us. Will we do it? Maybe, hopefully, one day we'll get there.
Thank you so much for your time, Segun. I mean, this has been an amazing conversation. I'm just hoping that they listen, because we have so much. So. Yeah, we have so much. We have so much potential for a lot of great things, and it just takes us to subject ourselves to a transparent structure. If we do that, some of these challenges that we face we would actually surmount it without even having to do too much.
And we'll surmount it very quickly too.
Yes.
All of these things that we're saying can happen in 5 years, in 10 years.
Yes,
Nigeria
because technology has even made
different.
Life easy.
Yes,
what would have taken us 100 years to do, we can
Absolutely.
do it in yeah.
Absolutely.
We can do it.
We hope so.
We hope to bring you back again, please, for us to continue this conversation, because you see, the conversation around Nigeria, the end.
Not the finish.
Not the finish, We're hoping to bring you back, because there's just so much to unpack, when it comes to what can truly be done to get us to become an effective and functioning country. It's I don't know, they call it a no-brainer, but we are refusing to to do that. But thank you so much for your time. Let me let you run now. Thank you. Okay, guys, I don't know what you think, but I believe what our guest just said, the role of private sector participation, right, really playing in the game to support, some of this government infrastructure. Imagine if, when Dangote applied for the refineries, they had actually given him those, what's it called, the government-owned refineries. What do you think would have happened by now? All of them would have been up and running, because A businessman must invest and he must get his money back. There must be return on investment. But if we're not ready to do that, then we're not ready to grow. For us to come out of debt, we need to put in structures that ensures all those leakages, first of all, are blocked. And for every revenue that is coming, it is accounted for. Honestly, if not, we won't go anywhere. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I would please ensure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's at Official Upgrade TV. Help us to grow. You can drop your comments, follow us across all our social media handles, continue to share, comment on our posts, and yeah. If you missed our quote for today, it says, as of April 30th, 2025, Nigeria has fully repaid the financial support of about 3.4 billion naira, billion dollars rather, it requested and received in April of 2020 from the International Monetary Fund under the Rapid Financing Instrument to help alleviate the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. And this was from the IMF resident representative of Nigeria, Christian Ebeke. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And yes, stay happy.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, lives a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Hey guys, it's Oluchi for Ray's Breakfast. Thanks for always tuning in. Our research has shown that you're probably not subscribed to our channel. What are you waiting for? Make sure you hit that subscribe button below so you never miss out on our latest content and stay in the loop with all things Ways. If the channel grows, it means more great content for you guys. So hit that subscribe button now.